I'm Huong.
And I'm Angela, and we are with KaleidoWork. We love talking about anything that has to do with work and making the work experience better for the people in the workplace. So today I have a question for you. Have you ever had a situation where you felt like you needed to fit in?
All the time. I'm an immigrant.
All the time? Fair.
Yeah.
It's a pretty pervasive feeling. I know I've had it too, where it feels like when you enter a group of people, you have to kind of find a way to fit in with them. And this is something that I wanted to talk about today because I think that it's a problem in a lot of workplaces. So what we're going to talk about today is the cost of conformity. What does it mean when teams are showing up with this kind of attitude of fitting in? And we've heard that a lot, right? Like, oh, they're just not really a fit with our team. There can be a major cost to that. And I think actually there's a need for misfits. So we're gonna dive into that today.
Very juicy. I'm excited for this. So what do you mean by conformity?
So conformity means that it's a group of people who all kind of share a lot of similarities, right? So when we conform, it means we assess the environment that we're in, and then we figure out a way that we can kind of adjust our style or adjust our personality in order to fit in with the people around us. Why do we do this? It's actually a survival instinct. So way back when we always relied on others for our own survival, that was actually a really important part of making sure that we were protected, was being a part of a group. And it kind of drives this need for belonging. And so it's a very natural tendency, you know, and I think we also hold this bias, this very natural bias. It's called the affinity bias. It's where we prefer to be with people that we are similar to, right? It's like we talk about that all the time in conversations. When you find that you have things in common, it feels good.
Yeah, and it's easier, right? So I can see in a way it can be kind of effortless for people to connect with each other because things are just so easy and it's just flow. So in the workplace, I can see why people would prefer that because it just feels easier.
Right. Yeah, so we should just do that, right? Except we shouldn't. So what happens is when you kind of reinforce this conformity culture, it means that you're bringing together a group of like people who will all have similar strengths, similar personalities, similar approaches to work. And it might also mean that they're hiding true parts of themselves, right? And so if I'm somebody who tends to be really quiet, but I'm on a team of extroverts, I'm probably going to feel like I need to force myself to talk a lot more. And that will actually limit the potential that I might uniquely bring to the team. And so you see this kind of risk of developing blind spots or not having complementary skill sets that can ensure you're gathering all of the right information, asking all the questions, making the best decisions. And so it can stifle creativity and innovation. It can affect the outcomes of the team and working together.
Right. I can also see it very draining for the person that have to mask certain part of themselves or have to try and present in a different way. Like, can you imagine as an introvert trying to act like an extrovert for 8 to 9 hours a day?
Yes, I can.
Every day of the week.
Yes, I can.
Right?
Yeah. And so when we see this kind of taking shape, here's what it can look like. And here's how you'll know if you're maybe experiencing a little bit of this conformity draw on your team. If you look at the individuals on your team and you kind of say like, so-and-so is a little bit quiet. They're the quiet one. You know, they don't really fit with our culture of having fun and cracking jokes. And when meetings are really animated and we're all sharing ideas and everything, well, the quiet one stands out. Does your team embrace that and make space for that? Or does your team kind of create that as an other situation where that person just doesn't really fit, right?
Yeah, and do people start telling story to explain what's going on, right? So when we first, I remember shifting from in-person to remote work, the Teams chat was where our chance to connect with each other. And I noticed there are people who thrive on the chat. There are people who, you know, they don't contribute much, but they always come in and maybe add a little GIF or like do a reaction. Like they're always there and kind of respond to things. And then there are others who just tend to be a lot more quiet on it. And I noticed one of the coworker that I was with at the time that she was quite absent on the thing, and I kind of checked in with her. I was like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And she's just like, everyone is just so funny, and I feel this huge pressure that I have nothing funny to say. And she doubted herself, and it's funny because in person she is this very warm, very friendly, approachable person that very easy to talk to, but somehow the chat was really hard for her to participate in. We always have a story. We form a story and now had to explain what's going on. If we don't know what's going on, we just kind of fill in and make up our own story for it, right? And that can cause tension and drift within the team.
Yeah. So what we wanted to share then is what can especially leaders do to maybe push back against this conformity idea, right? So one of the first thoughts is around who you're hiring. So that's where you really see the affinity bias take place, especially when you hear someone talk about cultural fit. That is a really dangerous place to be in, because sometimes that might actually be reinforcing this idea of we all hold these similarities and anyone who doesn't hold those isn't going to fit with us. So instead of thinking about cultural fit, think about culture add. So what kind of aspects of personality or skill sets or work style would complement the team that you have, rather than kind of reinforcing what they've already got?
And I think there's an opportunity to be actually intentional about the kind of culture that you're building, right? So it's the culture isn't made up of something that just organically happened because of what everyone else on the team is like, right? So what kind of culture are you building, and how can everybody contribute to that culture? It's a little bit more thoughtful about culture. I think the other thing I was just thinking about, when you talk about, give you an example of conformity of the quiet one, it makes me think about another one that might stand out sometime is the detail-oriented one. And so I used to lead a team, and I had somebody on the team who's very creative, love brainstorming, love coming up with new ideas for events and programming that we can run. And then the other one who loves implementation and is very detail oriented, love planning, organizing, making sure everything is in place. And I need both, and that's why I hire them. But because of that, there was a lot of tension in the team, right? So when we're in a meeting and thinking about how do we want it to run our next event, this really creative, ideating person was like firing on all cylinder and just coming up with new ideas. And this other person comes like, well, but how is that possible? Like, wouldn't that cost a lot? And kind of was getting in the way of the brainstorming process, right? But I still need that detail orientation. So we as a team have a conversation and talk about, okay, we're gonna have an ideating phase where we're gonna hold some of these detail oriented question back and just make room for this creativity to come forward. And once we've generated enough ideas on the table and we come to evaluating these ideas, that's where I need the detail-oriented person to come in. And then that help us kind of flesh out the idea a little bit more, make some decision about what are we going to do. And then when it comes time to planning and implementing the event, the creative person's not as interested. So this detail-oriented person comes in and kind of have a chance to shine. So I think thinking about kind of how you work together as a team and have that conversation. If you notice, I think this is one of the things, when team have differences, there is going to be tension.
Right.
Make sure you as a leader bring the whole team together, share what you're observing. I've noticed a little bit of a tension. Something's not quite working well the way that we're working together. So here's what I'm observing. What are you observing? How do we want it to solve this together?
The other thing I've seen work well is actually building this level of self-awareness of how each of us shows up. And so you can do this through a whole bunch of, profiles and assessments on work style or personality traits, whatever one might make sense for you. But what that can do is it can create this kind of concrete space to have the conversation with each other around here's my profile, here's how I work best, here's how I communicate, here are my natural tendencies when I'm around people. And then it helps not only build the awareness of myself, but also of each other on a team, so that we can just kind of talk about it as it is, as opposed to avoiding it or just kind of writing somebody off as being tricky.
Yeah. And there is something there about actually building a relationship with each other, right? Because I think we can have or give more grace when there's a strong foundation of relationship and connection.
Yeah, so really, I mean, it all comes down to approaching it with curiosity. You can really challenge this draw of conformity by being curious, getting curious about each other, getting curious about tension that's going on, and getting curious about yourself too. So there you go.
So if you like more like this, you can hit subscribe and follow us for when the next video comes out. You can also follow our blog on kaleidowork.com or connect with us on LinkedIn at Kaleidowork as well. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.